Hello, and welcome to a podcast about creating experimental art in trauma-informed and sustainable ways that support artists, our communities, and the organization as a whole. I'm your host, Molly, and you're listening to Any Other Anythings. In this season, we are focused on the latest project being produced by Graybox Collective. It is titled Positve Ruminations. So this is an event that will feature 4 new works, and each episode of this season of Any Other Anythings will feature conversations from the creative teams developing the new work. And we are really focusing on capturing the process and sharing out the things we find interesting along the way. Hope that you enjoy the season of Any Other Anythings. Next, we have a conversation with the PAUSE ensemble. And so PAUSE, again, is one of our more recent performances. So perhaps you've seen it or heard us talk about it somewhere in social media, but enjoy this conversation with Jennifer, Jasmin, and Ree.
So we just finished up our, technically second, but kind of first PAUSE role. Could you each take a moment and just introduce yourselves so we can put voices and names together?
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Ree.
I'm Jasmin.
Cool, and could one of y'all take a moment to just kind of recap what did we do and how things have developed for the performance of PAUSE?
Thank you. So at the beginning of rehearsal, we played with individual moments, little snippets of expressions, and then as the rehearsal progressed, we shared and borrowed and flavorized and developed into more of the ensemble expression moments.
What do we do?
Working on that transitional grief, how individual it is for each of us, and then that sharing and developing amongst as peers and friends.
I enjoyed playing with different kinds of fabrics and textures, even if we can't use them. But I liked the creative constraints of having different kinds of things to play with and touch and explore. And then moving into the fabric that's closer to what we'll be working with so that we kind of solidify the idea, but it gave us ideational generating space.
The chips themselves, just like how we were talking about in society, how life just keeps going and there's the pressure, and then you have your own little pockets of your grief
where they fit in with each other in the whole moving forward
together
and internalized.
Kind of like the community, like a club.
Yeah, and I'm going to zoom that out for just a hot second to be like, what is chips and salsa in the context of this? So we always name the different nuggets that we create as a way to share vocabulary, but also to know what we're talking about. So it's not oh, let's do the thing where, okay, we have the fabric, but you're doing the other thing, and then it's really confusing. You just be cool, chips and salsa. Especially when we're in a devising space where it's not okay, we're going to do the phrase that has all the spirals or all the 12 counts, or it's another way to identify it. So what are some of the things that y'all are thinking about or that came up for you today around the content itself or the form that we're creating within?
I'm thinking a lot about the transition moments and how to play with the fabric as a metaphor. So thinking about when the fabric is on my head as this cloud of grief, what happens when it falls off, or what happens when I have to pick it back up again and put it back on, or when can I release it, or the kind of moments between, oh yeah, easy, the moments between the thing that was made and how that makes it feel more fluid, especially when we're in this long line, just moving forward, and it feels really awkward to just and then do the next thing. So I like that.
I think for me, it reminds me how close to the surface grief can always be, no matter when it's happened in somebody's life. So even if it's something from a very long time ago, those emotions are still very close to that edge of coming out and being able to express them in this way. Just kind of is therapeutic.
Jennifer's Julia to do the fabric because we talked about like grief, like putting like the clothing or how you could wear grief, or like what would be kind of a symbol or a metaphor for like putting grief on yourself or over yourself. And you came up with this really beautiful metaphor of the fabric, and then the way you talked about it just stuck in my mind, and I was like, yeah, that thing.
And I think because we had talked about it being transitional, I think for me, seeing when you make something from scratch, buy a big square of fabric, and it's one thing, but when you turn it into a suit, it's still that square of fabric. It's just now a jacket that you can wear, or it's shaped differently, it fits you differently than just that big square of fabric. And it was just kind of a way for us to all kind of go, oh yeah, that's what that is. And then it's
So, anything else that you want to like capture from this first rehearsal that feels important?
I think it's really nice to have a space that has a specific emotion that you can hold and explore and kind of just move through. And I think it's really rare that you get that kind of focused energy to play with something difficult. And that's it. I'm just grateful.
For me, it's cool to be, excuse me, in the second coming up pause, just to see how different it is with different individuals, different space, different time in my life for it, and just how it's always reoccurring and it's always different, but it's the same and it's not, and it is. All of the above.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time and energy to check out another episode of Any Other Anythings. Greatly appreciate your presence. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to find out more about this podcast, the speakers, and Gray Box Collective. You can also go to grayboxcollective.com/podcast for a full transcript of this episode. Thank you again for listening. Thank you again for being here. Greatly appreciate it. Take care of yourselves and each other.